Welcome back to Website and TV. I'm Gemma Houghton. Today I'm joined by Tom Waterfall, who is the head of shop at Lost My Name, and he's going to talk to us about managing the website and the product in multiple languages and the challenges and opportunities that creates. So hi Tom, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So firstly, for those who don't know, can you just tell us what Lost My Name is?
Yeah, so Lost My Name is a startup that started with a first personalized children's book that's based on the letters of the child's name. So I had an example earlier that I gave someone. A boy named Stephen wakes up, can't find their name, so they go on this magical adventure and they meet a variety of characters along the way. Each of those characters gives Stephen a letter until he finds his name. And each letter is based on a different character. So S is squid, T is a troll, so we have some fantastical characters in there. E is an elephant, P, etc., etc. So every letter is represented differently. So that makes the book a bit more special than your traditional sort of personalized books where the story might be the same for every child.
Great. And how many languages or countries do you operate in currently and offer it in?
So we operate everywhere. We have the book in 11 different languages at the moment. Our website is translated in 8 of those languages, but we've sold about 1.8 million books in over 180 countries now.
So that's obviously a pretty big reach, a lot of different markets and languages to consider. So when it comes to creating both the product, I guess, and the website for these different languages, what are the main challenges and main things you need to think about for the different languages?
Yeah, I think as a startup, we have to think as much about the actual physical products as we do about the user experience of the website. So when it comes to the products, everybody needs to be interviewed, whether you're in the UK, the US, or France or Germany, to get an understanding if that product is actually going to be a successful product in that country. Yeah. And where the website team comes in is actually running certain tests to help us make some of those decisions after we've gotten quite a lot of qualitative research and investigation done. And then in terms of the website, our goal is to ensure that we create this reusable creation journey for not just the one initial product that we had, but all the products that are to come, so that when we are at scale and releasing products much more quickly, we can actually deliver them and make them available to our customers almost as quickly as a traditional, say, fashion retailer, where you just have to enter a SKU and a couple of details. So getting that right across many different languages and many different countries and different cultures is quite important, as you can imagine. Obviously, we get a lot more traffic in certain areas like the US, so that's a big focus of research for us, as well as testing. Not that we, don't want to pay attention to some of those other smaller countries, but
you do have to prioritize, don't you? If you know that that's where there's interest.
Exactly, absolutely, exactly. It's all about prioritization, understanding our volumes and the opportunity. At this point, the US happens to be the biggest opportunity, but there are many other opportunities out there like Germany, which doesn't convert as well for us, for example, or France. And sometimes this comes down to payment methods that we may or may not be ready to adopt on our website. Making a decision to implement something like invoicing is a big decision because there's an additional cost that goes along with that. So that may not be ready or may not be the right decision for right now for us. But implementing something like a payment method like Ideal for the Netherlands, where we know more than 60% of people use that, a no-brainer, right? We can do that just with engineering, and we don't have to create additional partnerships or
bring in new staff or something like
suck
that.
up new costs and expenses and things like that. So.
I think that's a really interesting point as well, because especially when you sell online, it's almost, people think, well, it's quite easy to scale up between countries because you're just replicating what you've already got. But of course, that isn't the case. And it may be that, certainly as a smaller business, you don't have the resources to go everywhere. So you're much better focusing on a few core markets and doing it well than spreading yourself thinly and maybe not doing so well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we kind of have a process that reflects that in terms of releasing new products. So at the moment, we're at this stage in our company where the goal is to start releasing more products more quickly. And it goes through different phases, alpha, beta, before a full rollout. And those alpha, beta stages are definitely focused on the most important markets to begin with.
And then you mentioned, obviously, that, say, Germany doesn't convert as well as the US, and that there can be various reasons for that. But are there any kind of key trends that you see, or key facts, insights that you've gathered from your own data that suggest certain things are barrier, maybe certain elements are barriers to conversions in some markets where they're not in others?
Yeah, I mean, some of it is based on German people within the company giving their own opinion. Some of it is based on research and the voice of the customer, interviewing people, surveys. We do see definitely that in the Netherlands and Germany, for example, where we were running surveys, a blocker to buying that was more popular, or a choice, was security or trust. Yep. We don't know this site, right? So we have to think a bit more critically about what sorts of trust messaging, iconography, or imagery we can apply to the site that would allow people to feel more comfortable with us. Obviously, we're a brand that not a lot of people know of yet, so there's still quite a high lack of trust in many countries. And
the product itself, how much does that have to vary between markets? Because of course, children like stories, and that translates everywhere. But in terms of the actual content, is that something that's very similar, or something again that varies?
Yeah, that definitely varies. So the example of our first book, where each letter represents a different character in the story. Obviously, we can't reuse the same characters because they might have a different connotation in a different language. So. Yeah. I think we've come across funny situations where actually someone's told us, don't use that character because that name of that animal also represents a bad thing in this country.
And that's going to put your conversion rates right down if that's the case.
Exactly, right? I think, there was a story about an automobile manufacturer that released a new vehicle, and the name was basically a dirty word in one country, so it wasn't so successful there. So we have to be conscious of that, the stories that we write based on different languages. We also have to be conscious of, for example, in the Nordics, there's a lot more feedback about having more of a gender-neutral book. So, our book is blue for the boy and a sort of purplish hue for the girl. And that's not gender neutral. So some people have actually had quite a few problems with that in the Nordics, where they think about that a bit more than maybe other countries like the US. But then, as soon as you do that, then you have other people complaining the opposite way. So we do have to make some changes, definitely, based on the country, based on the language. And hopefully we'll just get a bit better at doing that. The more change you make, the harder it is to scale. So we have to think about all those decisions that we make.
It is interesting, as you say, that a decision you make in one market that has a really positive impact there could then, throw you off in another. So you really have to be quite careful with how you're doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And then, of course, you said there that it's a fairly new business. It's not well known in a lot of markets. So obviously building that brand awareness and trust is going to be key to growth, like it is for every business. So what methods have you utilised to try and, get your name out there more, to become in front of customers and make them see you as a leading brand?
Well, we're starting to invest in a bit more TV now. So we'll see what happens in our biggest quarter of the year, Q4. Yeah. We have an excellent PR team who's really gotten our name out there, published a lot. We had a really quite cool thing when we released our second book. The second book is about taking the child on a journey from space back to their home. And we partnered up with NASA, actually, to have, we had a little competition where a boy in the UK won, and his book with his name in it and his home address was sent up to space with an astronaut and read from space.
Wow.
So there are a lot of interesting things going on, and there's a lot of interesting opportunities. I think there are companies that would like to work with us, so I think that makes it a bit easier. But we're still very new, and we still have a long, long way to go.
But like you say, that's a great example of really something a bit different, something that's going to capture the imagination. And especially when it's a product that's for children, I guess there's a lot of opportunity to really get into that storytelling and excitement.
Exactly, kind of the whole book in space was a story in unto itself. And you see that glowing look on the child's face. he's at Kennedy Space Center watching this rocket go up to space with his book in it. Pretty delightful little thing to be a part of, I think, when you're working at Lost My Name.
Definitely, that sounds really interesting, and it's great to talk to you today. Thanks so much for sharing that, and hope it continues to go well.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Thanks.